Louisiana's grain crops are in the bin, as they say, but harvest in the Midwest is just beginning. Neil Melanson now tells us how production across the country fared this year and what that will mean to you, the consumer, in this week's Bottom Line.
The Bottom Line is brought to you by the Cotton Board, strengthening the fiber of our industry, and by First South Farm Credit, financing rural America since 1933.
At this time of year, two things generally happen with crops, besides being harvested, of course. One is the condition scores for them start to drop off, and two, the prices for them dip. While 2013 is no exception so far, there is something that distinguishes this year, namely that it's a return to normal after last year. After the drought last year, condition scores were so bad that it buoyed prices up to record levels, even as we brought in more grain. This year, as you can see, for corn, we're more than double the percentages of last year in the good to excellent category. It puts us only slightly lower than the 5-year average, although that number itself is slightly skewed thanks to, of course, last year's dismal performance. Beans are a little bit of a different story, slipping more than 2 percentage points from last year and almost 5 percentage points from average. While we're well ahead of last year, some of the drought has returned for some Midwestern bean growing areas and has dramatically curtailed pod count. Just this past week, bean prices dipped on a cool front, bringing some rain to those areas, so we're still very much in a weather market for soy. Also, the same skew as corn applies if you discount last year's numbers. Beans are much further behind the average than otherwise seem to be. The bottom line for prices has been negative, although we found some support levels that are well above average. In simple terms, even though bean prices have gone down, they're not as far as they could have gone down. As the market is still coming to grips with the size of this year's crop, we still could see a big reversal in prices, Mike, possibly approaching some of the highs we saw earlier this year.
And I know, Neil, despite those falling soybean prices, a lot of soybean growers here in Louisiana are not complaining because so far we have had an excellent crop. Neil Melanson, thanks. And remember, you can listen to any of Neil's daily radio reports on the Louisiana Farm Bureau Agri-News Radio Network. For a list of stations where you can tune in or listen online, click on over to our website, twilatv.org, and look for the LF Barn link on the home page. Before we leave you today, we wanted to tell you about an event coming up in Port Allen, Louisiana, with the sugarcane harvest right around the corner. The West Baton Rouge Museum is hosting its annual Sugar Fest. It will be held Sunday, October 6th. Our own Avery Davidson will be there judging the sweets contest. He and Avery and AJ, these guys always get the good gigs. But for more information about that program, you can visit our website at twilatv.org. That does it for this edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. Be sure to join us next week when we continue our Twyla series, Twyla Reporting for Duty. Until then, you can watch any of our stories online. You know the address, twilatv.org. For all of us here at This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Michael Dana. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope to see you again right here next week.